Talk to me about how you deal with just the sheer pressure of what you're doing, because one of the things that's very distinctive about your position is just the incredible range and size of responsibilities, right? We mentioned that you're overseeing about $2.6 trillion. I think you have about 350 people in the fixed income team. You're running various funds like the Strategic Income Opportunities Fund, which I think on its own is about 36 billion in assets. Maybe my numbers are outdated. And you've got the firm-wide BlackRock Investment Council that you're the chairman of. So you have this enormous array of both management responsibilities and investment responsibilities. Do you ever get overwhelmed by it all? Are there ways that you're dealing with the pressure that are instructive for the rest of us? Because I think all of us are struggling on a no doubt smaller scale in most of our ways, but all of us are struggling, I think, with a sense of being kind of overwhelmed, not knowing quite how to juggle things in our lives.
So it's hard. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I figured it out or even have any sense of mastery over it. I think there is. Listen, I think one of the things I always say is you try and put things into a box and try and think about, strategically, what it means. And then, you got, definitionally I get bad news all day, like all day. And, whenever, they do this argument about tennis players, you get 54% of the points with 54%, like you're getting 46% of the time, you're getting bad news. And so, I just think I know that I'm any good or but, you try and like put it in a box and you recognize that statistically you're going to get bad news a lot. But don't let it overwhelm you or don't let the stress overwhelm you. And then, statistically, by the way, and I will say, like there are days like you get 3 things in a row that go wrong in a significant way. And like, wow, and like all of it, but you think about over 365 days, statistically, that's always going to happen. And what I've learned is like, just, you gotta respect the fact that is going to happen and to have the highs not be too high and the lows not be too low. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, like when things are going awry or you have those 3 things in a row that went wrong or 3 days in a row that you lost money, I can't say I'm not in a bad mood. Like it, I think part of what drives you is like how to correct when things aren't going wrong. But listen, I'm a stress, I enjoy, I know when I go to see the doctor and we were talking about it, I like stress, I like pressure. And, I really believe this. So it keeps people going. And I think once you like eliminate all that, the intent, the stress, you tend to decline, I think. And, but anyway, I like different people and different levels of that. But I like it. I like doing a lot of things at once. And sort of keeps you going.
Using the sense of pressure the sense of stress in your body as a kind of as a signal in terms of your trading, in the way that, say, Soros would talk about watching his back pain as an indicator that something was wrong in his portfolio. Or I remember Jeff Vinnick, who ran the Magellan Fund in his early 30s, telling me that sometimes he would buy a stock that was so out of favor that he would literally feel nauseous, and that was he learned that was a really good sign. Like, how are you actually using your stress so that it helps you as a trader?
So come on. So by the way, it's always nice to be even considerate of people like that because I have unbelievable respect for them. But I think a couple of things. One, I've learned to walk around, and I feel like you can just stare at the markets and stare at every blip, and like I've learned, like just walk around, get away and take a walk around the block, and you got to get away from, particularly when things aren't going the way you expect them to go or want them to go. I've learned to just get away. And I've also learned there's a really wild thing. Like I find that Mondays and Fridays are less effective as an investor than the middle of the week. And I don't know whether that is, you're just winding down, markets are less liquid on Fridays, or Monday, there's a little bit of, you're just not, the intensity isn't there yet coming off a weekend. But it's interesting that I try not to, particularly on a Friday, I try and maybe tone it down a little bit around, all the decisions you're making and all the things you're doing. And whether that is anecdotal or there's a quantitative basis behind that, but I definitely find that is the case. You need to take a bit of break. And I think part of why, whether it's a vacation calendar or otherwise, that, to try and step back from some of these things at times. I don't know there's a physical dynamic around it, other than I know I need to, like when things aren't going right, take a walk around and just relax, try and think about the big picture as opposed to the specifics.
And are there things that you're doing to manage your energy level? Because I know you're wearing the Whoop strap, you're wearing your Apple Watch, you love data in every area, whether it's with your philanthropy or markets or with your health. Like, what are you doing to make sure that you don't crash during the day? Like, are you off sugar? Are you drinking tons of caffeine? Do you meditate? Do you take naps? Do you have a personal trainer? Like, is there anything distinctive about like how you're actually managing your health and your energy?
So I tried meditating. So Ray Dalio, I think, is a genius. And he taught me about meditating. I can't do it. I tried. I can't do it. I don't know. I have to pick my phone up within 30 seconds. I can't really do that. I tried. I understand. By the way, I got into it when I did it. I totally understand the efficacy of it. I totally understand. But I don't, I would say, so I'll say one thing that is interesting. I don't really, you go out to dinners with clients and you do things, and like, I don't like to drink much because it's incredible. If I follow it on the Whoop, like you realize, like if you have a couple of drinks, you don't realize it, but how it changes your sleep patterns, how it changes your, the deep, the intensity of your sleep, how you end up dreaming versus getting. So anyway, I try not to, just eat a bit better. And I try not to drink, particularly during the week I'll never have more than one drink during the week. Even the weekends, I don't drink much. And so I find like I try and manage that. And then then otherwise just, work out, a trainer, I work out almost 7 days a week. I'm doing, and, I feel like, start trying to stay in shape but I think all those things contributed and manage the energy level. But I don't know. I also feel like I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of, I feel like at my age now, I have as much energy as I had 40 years ago. And, like I said, I think a lot of it is because I really love, a lot of the things that are, I'm happy about in my life.
And you're
not without threats alongside of it.
Yeah. But you're working out at like 4:30 in the morning, right?
Yes, sir. 4:40. Yeah. Yeah. We go early and but then it's great, and I can get to my desk and start the day. So yeah, no, it is early. It's usually not a line at the gym for any of the machines.
When you say we go early, are you going with a trainer to?
Yeah, no, I work out. I generally half the week I work out. Roughly 3 days a week. I work out with a trainer, but otherwise I'll play golf or work out on my own. But yeah.
So there are a few patterns here that I think are really interesting. One of which is consistent exercise, doing something you're passionate about, simplifying your life so that my sense is it revolves around family, friends, work, sports, and exercise, right? I read somewhere you're not a great fan of going to museums or movies and the like. Like you've simplified. And then philanthropy, which we'll get to in a minute, if you don't mind me asking you a few more questions before you catch your flight.
That's okay. Oh, good. Yeah, no, good. No, sorry, were you going to ask specific questions?
I mean, is that right? That a lot of it is down to simplicity, like the ability to actually simplify your life makes it possible to streamline it into a few buckets of things that are really the core focus of what you do. That makes it manageable in a way, this complexity of your life.
I mean, I've realized there's just certain things I'm not going to be any good at. And like you say, I tend not to watch a lot of movies. And, I find that, if I can accomplish more things and do more things around what not to say that it is I'm growing necessarily by sitting and watching the Dolphins game, but anyway, I thoroughly enjoy it. And so, I just have realized like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm pretty maniacal about those are the things that take my time.
And how have you managed to sustain a successful family life for all these years? Because my sense is you got married about 36 years ago. I remember Charlie Munger, when he read my book, was like, one thing that struck me was just how many of us ended up getting divorced. And he said it kind of totally made sense because he said the game is so all-consuming that we sort of neglected our partners. And I'm wondering, like, you have two adult daughters who my sense is you're close to. Like, how do you manage to operate at a very high level without totally sacrificing family and friends?
I think it comes.
I don't know.
Yeah, no. In my family, we are like crazy close, and so I think a lot of it is this idea of simplifying. Like when I'm with my family and friends. Not to say I'm not looking at my phone, but it's a really good quality time. We love, I mean, we go to dinners, vacation, I mean, and, we just like being with each other. I mean, literally you could sit at a table, maybe we don't even talk that much whatever, but just being together, I think is a really big thing. And I also think it's having complementary, so I think particularly my wife, I mean, we have very complementary, she's not into the markets at all. And, and I think having, complementary, desires in terms of, what she likes to do and I like to do. And she's very patient around, around the business life. But, it's when we do things together that are, I think have made it really good. And, I think, we just like being with each other, even if I'm working, I like, being in the same room. And, so.
And you have these two adult daughters, Danielle and Melanie, who both went to Emory's business school like you and your wife, Deborah. And you mentioned before the two of your credos that you have around the house are, one, life is not a dress rehearsal, and two, work hard, play hard, give back, reboot. Is there other advice that you've tried to share with your daughters that would be helpful to the rest of us, whether in business or life? I mean, I know one of your daughters works at Walmart, I think. What do you try to share with them that that could benefit the rest of us?
So that's a good question. I mean, I think there are a few things. One, I really believe in, treating people the right way. And my kids are unbelievable about, treat people the right way. I think I sort of alluded to this earlier. Like, I watch how people treat service level people or people that are, there's some people who feel like, you're here to serve me, and other people are like, wow, those are really high quality people that, you treat with respect. And I think my kids are unbelievable about, being respectful and polite and treating people the right way. I think is to me number one thing. I think this idea around, I also believe in this thesis that people bring stuff to you all the time. And I always say, you got to go and get it, as opposed to letting people, like, I find like the opportunities that have been, we've had, whether it's investments or otherwise, oftentimes people bringing stuff to you is not what you want to invest in or do or what have you. It's what you actually go and get. Because oftentimes when things are brought to you, it's because somebody else didn't want it or they're trying to sell it. And so I always feel like you got to be proactive versus reactive. And so we talk a lot about that. And then, I one of my idols, my big idol, my younger daughter's named Cal, his middle name's Callie, after Cal Ripken. And, why do I love Cal? Why I got to meet him and we invested together in something. But anyway, he came to work every day. He was incredibly diligent. He did things the right way. He was culturally, I think morally incredibly sincere. And, I really, really believe in that. And believe in you do the right thing and you go to work every day. And, so anyway, that to me stands for a lot. And so I think my kids
he's the one who played something like 2,600 games in a row, right? So it's very much that ethic of showing up, doing your work, and hoping that over the long run, if you're doing it right, if you do it right lots of little times, I mean, in a way, it goes back to the casino lesson from the Golden Nugget.
Yeah, no, I mean, so you think about it, it's physically impossible. It'll never happen again that somebody could literally not, play sick, play hurt, and do it every. I mean, think about how extraordinary that is. I mean, even just, you said it, but you have to have some good luck. So as you did, crash into a player or what have you. But, this idea that you could come in every day and operate at an incredibly high level is I think it's extraordinary. And I don't think we'll ever see that again. I mean, there are levels of it, but I don't think we'll ever see that again. But yeah, no, that watching that guy for a long time was I thought amazing. Like, I thought that was historic. We get to watch. I got to go to the game where he broke Lou Gehrig's record, and I thought it was the greatest sporting event of all time. Like, how did this guy do that? And so it was very cool, unbelievably emotional.
And you have his jersey in your office, right?
It is the epicenter of my office, and they I have a signed jersey of his. And then, like I say, I got to know him, and like I say, he bodies everything that I was believing. Like, I watch, even when you play golf, like, how do you treat the people around you, what have you? And he, I got to do that with him. But yeah, no, I think he was pretty extraordinary.
I have a friend who who works for your firm, who is the guy who introduced us, Thomas Muller-Borgia, I asked him about questions the other day, and I that I should ask you. And one thing he mentioned, since it's nice, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning it to you. He said, you're known as being really nice to the people in your team. Like, you're very approachable, very friendly, and one of the things he was saying to me is he's really interested in your management style because, given the intensity of what you have to do and the amount of responsibility, like, how did you come to that philosophy of, like, obviously you have to hold people to a high standard, and yet you're being very nice to them, you're very approachable. Like, is that, can you talk a little bit about, like, your management style?
Yeah, I've tried to, particularly on weekends, is try to be somewhat respectful or very respectful of people's time, and that, everybody's different and everybody working different schedules. The nice thing about having a bunch of people on the team is, like, somebody may be around on Saturday morning from 7 to 10 and somebody else may be around Sunday afternoon. So try and be respectful of their time. And, and by the way, they have personal commitments, et cetera. But, I do believe in this idea that, this work hard thing, and that if, as long as, but people have different schedules, and those are providing them flexibility. And as long as, with varying levels of intensity, all I care about is that you're proud of what you did, and you're proud of the work that you're doing, and that you're contributing to it. And I'm just not great. People produce stuff that is, not efficient, not well done, or not well researched. I'm respectful of people's time, but when asked to, whenever fits them, whenever asked to do it, appreciate that people put in, really excellent work, and they're proud of them. You go to a client, and their money and what you're doing for them is, to me, is like sacrosanct, and you gotta do things in a professional manner for them. So that's all I ask of people. And
do you think at a certain point, it sounds like a lot of your career, particularly the early years, but maybe later as well, you were motivated by this kind of terror of failure and becoming mediocre and letting people down. I'm wondering if at a certain point that shifted for you ever, and it became more about serving people, or if you're still really, way motivated by that terror and fear of failure.
No, I don't. Even when you do, I do tons of, including today, tons of client presentations that, I think you got one shot, and I really, really am motivated by if that presentation, I saw, like, today, people say, like, that was, somebody said it was the best presentation I ever saw. I don't know whether it was, I don't know, may probably be nice, but anyway, I really am motivated by that. Like, I really like when people say, like, you put in the effort, and the work product was awesome, and so anyway, I still don't like, if I come out of a presentation and I sort of laid an egg. I find that incredibly disappointing. So no, I still feel like I'm going to get fired every day. And so I don't know. I don't know that that's ever going to change.
In the equation you talked about before, work hard, play hard, give back, reboot, obviously the giving back has actually been really central to your life. And I know that for about 19 years, you've been chair of the board of North Star Academy, this system of what's now 14 charter schools in New Jersey. Started out as just one school, and I was looking on their website last night, and it says it's New Jersey's #1 highest performing public charter school, and it serves over 5,500 people, and more than 99% of these North Star graduates have been accepted to college. So it's very formidable, and I know it's been important to you that you bring your children to their graduation ceremonies and you sign off on every check that the school writes and stuff. Can you talk about why this focus on urban education, both in Newark and also in Atlanta, where you're very involved as well through Emory and this organization you set up there? Why this is the choice? Like, why it's such an important part of your life?
So, it goes back to, like we were talking about earlier, like, we had a tougher upbringing socially or economically, I should say. And then, went well, and then it declined a bit. I watched, like, the difference. Like, I went to different schools, and I watched the difference when I ended up going to a high performing school. Like, everything is put in front of you, and I didn't really take advantage of it a lot, but every advantage you could have. And it was almost, you're in this pipeline of going to college and then getting to the next job, and probably you had a family relationship that got you into the right job. If you're on the other side of it, you have no chance. And you don't get all those benefits, you don't get all those contacts, and I've always felt it's an extraordinary injustice. And there is, my schools in Newark, and the dynamic around these kids are going to college and they're succeeding. They're going to the top schools in the country, and I've hired a bunch of them, and it's unbelievable. What they are accomplished. Same thing in Atlanta. There are graduation generation program. It's pretty extraordinary and I just think in this country, in the world, but certainly, what I focus on in this country is the ability to provide, these people the opportunity. And I think I think our education system in many ways is broken. And I think, whether it's healthcare, social work, tutoring, that, a lot of these people don't have. And if you give them the environment around it, you can, there's a incredible unlocked economic and social success that can come on the backside of it. And I just think, quite frankly, I think your moral responsibility is to do that.
But you're being summoned. Is that because you've got to go to a plane?
Yeah. Yes. As a matter of fact.
All right. You want to get that for a second?
Can you give me just one quick second?
Yeah. Go for it.
One quick second.
Are you okay for half a minute longer?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. So we just had a very quick hiatus because Rick has to go get a plane. Is there any, just to end, is there any specific story of someone where you've seen some kid whose life has just been transformed by this, that gives us a sense of why this is such a life enriching mission? Many,
but I will tell you I would say maybe the one experience that I've had is at North Star, when we have what's called College Signing Day, and we have all our kids, all our juniors come into this huge arena, and the students and the juniors are all there supporting the seniors who are graduating, and then all the parents and related family or intermediate families are in the arena. And these kids come up and they say, going to this university, full ride, and then the place goes crazy. And you realize these people haven't, many of them is first generation that have gone to college, and they're getting a full ride, oftentimes getting full ride or getting a lot of scholarship money. Like, that is game changing. I've had my kids come to that. Like, that to me is like, it makes I can't, it's hard emotionally to keep it together when you watch this. And it's pretty amazing. To the extent that you feel like, gosh, you're, maybe making some small contribution. That to me is like the greatest. By the way, I don't go anymore because I can't. I have a reputation, and I can't hold it together in those things. So I still go to I go to all our graduations, but I can't go to that anymore because it's an emotional disaster for me. But they're very cool, and to watch these kids do what they're doing, and then watch them succeed. Whether however you define success, which I would argue is not economically for a lot of people, is emotionally or what they're contributing to society, et cetera. But that to me is like the coolest thing that I've gotten a chance to witness.